And I now turn for a Jewish perspective to Senior Rabbi Mark Weiner from the West Synagogue. Please give us some.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here once again. This is my third year, and more important than what we've shared together is the relationships that have grown out of this conference. My friendship with Lord Ahmed goes back many years, but we've grown especially close. Rubab and Shabib and Shirvaz, their son, their gorgeous son, now has a Jewish grandfather who brings the presents regularly whenever I come to London. I speak to you this afternoon as one whose central occupation for the entirety of my 68.5 years has been building bridges. I learned to build bridges from both my parents, but it was particularly from my mother that I learned to build bridges from a religious base. My mother was a social worker who devoted her professional life to working with poor African Americans and Mexican Americans in the Texas of my youth. She also taught religious school, posting newspaper articles on the walls of her classroom and asking of her students that they find passages in the Jewish tradition which pertain to each story. She also founded a synagogue choir with 3 of her closest women friends. I became a rabbi devoted to building bridges out of my identification with my mother. I not only always built bridges to other religions, I also learned from my interaction with them. From a Catholic nun in nursery school, when I was 3 years old, I learned how to pray before going to sleep, concluding in Hebrew with the Shema. A Catholic nun taught me the Shema, the traditional Jewish declaration of faith. In Utah, where I was born, I had endless theological discussions with the Mormons around me. In my teens, in then racially segregated Texas, I preached every week in a different black church about how we as blacks and whites together would build a better future. From those black churches, I deepened my spirituality. As an undergraduate planning to become a rabbi, I studied New Testament and Christian theology in university. As a rabbinic student, I began my studies in Israel, in Jerusalem, where I learned from some of my Israeli Jewish friends to appreciate Islam, to befriend Arabs, and to appreciate Arab culture, language, and food. During the 13 years I served as the senior rabbi of the West London Synagogue of British Jews, located near Edgware Road, no less, I lived and worked in the center of what many Londoners derisively call Londonistan, the heart of Arab and Muslim London. I so loved those 13 years that I cherished being called the Rabbi of Londonistan. I loved all of my work with the Central Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center in Regent's Park. I learned on a daily basis the wisdom of the Talmud, which in Tractate Sanhedrin declares that one who makes peace within one's neighborhood is viewed as having made peace within the entire world. As senior scholar of the West London Synagogue and as chairman of the International Interfaith Task Force of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and as president of Faith, the Foundation to Advance Interfaith Trust and Harmony, I have dedicated the rest of my life, inshallah, to building bridges among the Abrahamic religions. As Moses is among my idols, I plan on another 51.5 years to a total of 120 just like Moses, inshallah. I look to work with you in this sacred endeavor of building bridges. Although I am not a Muslim, I am a dedicated student of the Quran, the Hadith, and the entirety of Islam. Although I am a rabbi and dedicated to teaching Torah, I am also an Islamophile, a lover of Islam and Muslims. As a rabbi, I'm also a Christophile, a lover of Christianity and Christians. Now that does not mean that I love every verse in the New Testament or every Christian, nor do I love every surah or every Muslim, but then I tell you for sure as a rabbi, I don't love every verse in the Torah, and certainly not every Jew. The critical divide in our world is not between the different religions. The critical divide is between the extremist fundamentalists and moderate pluralists. The extremist fundamentalists of all religions make war with everyone, including their own modern pluralists. The moderate pluralists of all religions make peace with each other and resist and try to quarantine their extremist fundamentalist brothers and sisters. The moderate pluralists teach mutual respect and celebrate difference. As a rabbi who has spent his lifetime fighting Jewish extremist fundamentalists, I know how difficult the struggle is within Islam. The extremist fundamentalist Islamists threaten moderate Muslims as much as, if not more, than they threaten the entire world. As I am not a Muslim, but dedicated to the study of Islam and the appreciation of Muslims, so am I not a woman, but dedicated to the full equality of women within our world and within our respective religions. One of the greatest lessons of our modern world is the benefit of full equality and full participation of women within our religious traditions. Our religions are much the richer and wiser for their inclusion of women in the modern world. So you can see that the world that we live in desperately needs bridge builders, people who connect the past with the future, and the internal private world of feelings with the external public world of achievement. But perhaps most importantly, we need people who will build bridges between religious traditions and to the contemporary material world. Women are naturals for such tasks because women take an active role in all kinds of relationships, linking the generations, caring for children and parents, responding to their joys and woes, and satisfying their needs and demands. Women make connections, and that is what bridge building is all about. So it is no surprise that this task of bridge building, which is so necessary, desperately necessary in the present, is reflected in the actions of the women in our past. Each of our Abrahamic religious traditions offer rich examples of women as bridge builders. In Christianity, there is a little-known hymn that Jesus recites in praise of all women. Respect woman, for she is the mother of the universe, and all the truth of divine creation lies in her. She is the basis of all that is good and beautiful, as she is also the germ of life and death. She gives birth to you in the midst of suffering. By the sweat of her brow she raises you, and until her death you cause her the gravest anxieties. For woman's love ennobles man, softens his hardened heart, tames the brute in him, and makes of him a lamb. The more traditional hymn of praise appears in both the Jewish and Christian tradition as the culmination at the end of the book of Proverbs, found in both the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Old Testament. This poem is a praise for the Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. She is a prototype of the bridge builder, a model for women as ancient as the Bible and as contemporaries today. This poem entails some controversy because the woman of valor appears so capable that few can measure up to her, even her husband. But it provides evidence that demonstrates how traditional it is for a woman to be as active in the larger world as she is in her home. Women today may not do the same work as that biblical ancestor, but they know and understand what it means to try to fulfill roles outside and inside the home. No one can fail to praise such a woman. This ode to women is set up as an alphabetic acrostic in Hebrew, a kind of A to Z of what women are capable. She is a property owner as she envisions a field and buys it, and she is a vintner, for from the fruit of her handiwork she plants a vineyard. She is a merchant, for she makes a cloak and sells it, and delivers a belt to the peddler, And she is a teacher, for she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She cares for her home, for she anticipates the ways of her household, and those beyond her household, for she spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. The description is so thorough that it encompasses a full range of tasks, addressing both the internal world of feeling and the external world of business. In a traditional Jewish home, this paean of praise to women is sung by a husband to his wife like a love song every Friday evening before the Sabbath dinner is eaten. It demonstrates how Jewish tradition asks a loving husband to recognize the value of women and teach that value to his children. Today we come to recognize Fatima, daughter of Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a leader of women and the quintessential woman of valor in her tradition. Indeed, she is known by many names that reflect their own full range of a woman's capability, for she is a model of all traditions. Fatima is known for her resemblance to her prophet father, Muhammad, peace be upon him. Her appearance, character, and even the way she walked were a reflection of her similarities with him. Her fine manners and gentle speech reflected his eloquence, and tradition says that this eloquence is rooted in the wisdom she inherited from her father. In addition, there are many stories about her defense of her father and the care she took of him. These characteristics have earned her the name Abiha, mother of her father. The care she took of him was mirrored in the care she showed her husband, her children, and all the people with whom she came in contact. She was poor when she was first married and did not shirk the work necessary to keep her household. When she later gained wealth and she could hire maids, she treated them as family and worked with them. She thereby demonstrated in word and deed the equality between people that Islam teaches. She was a healer who cared for those who were hurt in battle. She was a model and teacher of her children. These worthy actions not only create a bridge between Muhammad and the people, both men and women of her time, but also the men and women of our time. We need to remember that her gentleness and obedience to God are not just the characteristics of a good woman, but of any human being. These traits are not just for the internal private world of the family. They need to be present in the external public world of achievement. We could use less ruthlessness and more gentleness, less arrogance and more humility. Why does one person need to lose at the expense of another winning? Can't we create a cooperative world where everyone has the possibility of winning? Fatima's attributes are the kinds of character traits that would allow us to do just that. They build a world of cooperation where we listen to each other so that we can truly hear each other and respond to each other's needs. Then the care she extended to others would be the care we extend to others, and the world could become a better place. The modern material world, we tend to be far more concerned with the bottom line than with how we get to that bottom line. Being wealthy and successful are more important than anything else, but all of the Abrahamic religious traditions teach us that this is not so. How we treat each other is more important. How we treat each other doesn't interfere with success. It creates a more lasting success. Fatima is an enduring model that confirms this message. She reminds us that how we go about achieving our goals is important. We must be as willing to treat others with respect and equality that she did. We must stand for justice and mercy as she does. It is when we use Fatima's qualities that we create the necessary bridge between the modern world and tradition. She teaches us that goodness isn't just for women or just for the private world of the family. It is for the whole world. In order for the world to learn this, women must participate actively in the world just as Fatima did. In this way, She builds a bridge between the modern world and tradition. I like to imagine a world in which the traits that characterize Fatima flourish. They are not just traits that describe a leader of women, but traits that describe a world where all love God and try to do God's will. These are traits that know no boundaries. People of all religious traditions admire them. In this way, she is also a bridge between traditions. We need to follow her lead. There is a story that when Muhammad died, peace be upon him, Fatima claimed the property rights her father had given her, but she was refused. Though she was asking for land, Fatima had property that was more important than land. It was her character. We must claim her character as our own property, and we must not be refused. We must use her qualities to make the world a better place. As the Woman of Valor poem ends, give her the fruit of her hands, and let her be praised in the gates by her deeds. All religious traditions would be well to follow this advice.
Thank you very much. We are running a little short of time.